Hi, I'm Hannah.
Hi, I'm Abby.
And this is Fulfil Ink,
the Inksville podcast.
And we are back for season 4.
Amazing. Like, we're going to be reflecting on this anyway, but hey!
I know, the final season, I mean, we didn't at the beginning, we're like, is anyone going to actually listen to this? Is this going to actually go well? But we've made it.
We've made it. People have listened to it. We have had amazing guests. We have amazing guests coming.
Yeah.
It's just gorgeous to get this far.
Yeah, we've had such lovely feedback as well, haven't we?
Oh my gosh, yeah, it really keeps us going.
Yeah, we in the in-between of the 2 seasons we've had the festival, and that was nice, wasn't it?
It was nice. Get it done. It was nice to get it done.
Yeah, to get the actual festival done.
Yes.
Yeah.
Huge thank you to everyone who turned out. We had an amazing day. We had, I think, about over 100 attendees in total.
Yeah, coming and going.
Yeah, coming and going, which was amazing. Great feedback. And I mean, we talked about this, you know, I just feel like we've had all the bad luck for this podcast, for this festival this year. It just felt like not a reflection of anyone who was involved. They were all stunning, but just basic stuff kept going wrong, didn't it?
It's like that when you organise anything though, isn't it? You kind of finally get things on track and you get a plan together and an action plan and you're ready to go, and then someone pulls out or someone changes things and you've got to re-strategise constantly. And I think that's the thing, isn't it? We put these things on really for other people. It's never to benefit ourselves, is it? I mean, sometimes I was thinking to myself, like, why are we doing this? But it's because we always just want, I don't know, to bring new experiences to, you know, people at Huddersfield, to our Inksville community. And so, yeah, I think it's just been one of those years where every time we've got a plan together and we think, finally, it then changes.
Yeah, I joked to you, like, the day after the festival, I was like, I'm planning next year's festival in January.
Yeah.
I'm just not leaving any room for margin. I'm booking people in advance. And again, this is no reflection on anyone who's involved or anyone who wasn't involved. It was just like a constant stream of just things. It was one of those situations where you get to a point where even tiny things changing are like massive problems to you because you're just so overwrought. I mean, yeah,
it's hard as well when we are such a small organisation, aren't we? I mean, we do everything ourselves, and anything that we put on comes from our own money. So we do spend a lot of our own personal money on Inksville, but then also the bits of donations we get from people at different Inksville events. And that makes it quite tricky as well because, you know, we want to put on the best quality day, but on a minuscule budget, so it's tricky.
Should we just talk about the day? Because I was just thinking about them, because like some people who are listening, we do have, which is quite exciting to say, listeners from abroad.
Well, hello abroad listeners.
Yeah, should we just quickly explain like what the day consisted of? Because it was quite a cool programme, I think.
That was really good,
So we started off with your workshop.
Yes.
Which was on...
My workshop kicked off the day with poetry on the page.
Yes.
And it was, to be honest, it was more of an easing into the day activity kind of session.
Yeah.
I wanted people to basically go back to being kids. And it was like, I got paint, crayons, pastels, Scrabble, newspapers, and glue sticks, and it was very much just let's get hands on, let's get creative and see where it takes us. So yeah, it was just to get people into the creative space.
No, it's amazing. The thing is, I never get to do these because I was doing the social media, I was doing posters, I was making sure our volunteers, my lovely parents were hydrated, and like they were managing like the merch and the zine table and the cakes that you'd brought, which was amazing. Yeah. So I didn't actually stop and go, oh, that's what Hannah's doing. I was just like, Hannah was fine, she'll sort it.
Well, we do that a lot. We talk about that a lot with Inksville, don't we? It's always like us kind of busily in the background to make sure everyone can take part in
100%. So we had your lovely workshop, and then we had this year's spotlight poet Jack Collins, who is a poet from over in Leeds, who does a lot of work with communities and schools, and it's just... He performed, and then we also had a little Q&A, and he was just wonderful. We had a lot of recording stuff set up that day for a later session. I'll talk about in a sec. And I said to Alex, because Alex said, who was doing the sound for us, he was like, do you want to record anything? I was like, no, it's fine. And then I have such regret that I didn't record Jack's set and Q&A, because he was so insightful and interesting and lovely. And it just felt like a really juicy session. And people loved it, because he's not been performing a lot. He talked about the fact he's writing a collection, which is really cool, and just fantastic.
He brought such a lovely energy to the day as well. I think it was just Yeah, it was that time where it was still quite early in the day, wasn't it? So people were still feeling a little bit, not
quite relaxed.
Yeah, so it was just really nice. He just brought such a lovely energy, such a welcoming energy, and people were singing his praises afterwards. So.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And if you haven't checked out Jack Collins, we thoroughly would recommend his socials.
Yeah.
And then we had a second workshop with the wonderful Faye Marshall, who was our first Spilling Ink guest back in January. And her workshop, it was all about restarting and fresh starts in September. And it was so lovely seeing someone else run a workshop for us, because you are imminently going on mat leave from both work and, well, when this goes out, you'll be on mat leave and everything, but by the time we're recording, mat leave from Expo and work. And it was so nice because you've run the Expo workshops for basically 2 years. Like I've helped and supported you, but it's really been your area of expertise, and it was nice seeing people respond positively to like other people doing workshops.
I absolutely loved it. I sat there and I was like, I took part in it. I'm
so jealous.
It was so enjoyable, like just being able to sit at the back of the room and blend in and get to write my own things, and I came away with some things I was really proud of as well.
Amazing.
So yeah, I was really chuffed with them.
Yeah, Faye talked about how she, and I know she was in a good way, she was like, I didn't expect everyone to be so engaged and so good, and I was like, yeah, they are, like our community really like switches on for this and glows,
really
and it's gorgeous. And then we had our podcast recording.
We did,
which is why we had lots of big shout out to my partner Alex for doing the sound. He had multiple microphones, he was recording, he
had such an intense setup in front of him. I was staring at it like, I'm glad you know what these buttons do, because heaven forbid you had to leave right now, we would be screwed.
We would be absolutely screwed. He did such a good job. So the podcast, the festival podcast will be out soon. Well, we say it's our recording, it will be out by the time this is live. I have to remember myself. And we just talked to our community, and we just did a little Q&A, and we just sort of felt out, and we just wanted to have people's voices from our community recorded and in perpetuity to be part of the Spilling Ink history.
I just wanted to have a chat with everyone as well. Like I thought that it was just nice. I mean, it felt weird because we were sat on these stools at the front of the room, weren't we? Because we kind of had to be logistically for
wires and cables.
But it felt odd because we've never seen, as Inkspill, we've always kind of blended with everyone, haven't we? I don't think we've ever set ourselves apart of we're kind of the hosts of the night, and it felt odd.
We'll always introduce, but we always try and make sure that we're just sort of facilitating rather than leading.
Yeah, that's exactly what I mean. We are the host of the night, but like we don't kind of dominate the night. I don't feel anyway. We try not to, and so it was strange being at the front and kind of like putting on a bit of a show almost, because we do that a little bit on the podcast because we have to at the end of the day. It felt a bit strange, but the comments and the questions we were getting from people were really lovely. And so if you haven't listened to that episode yet, I would definitely recommend it. Just to hear some of the lovely people from the Inkspill community.
It was gorgeous.
Who have been with us for nearly 2 years now. Which
over
is
2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is just so insane, isn't it, when you think about it?
It's a lot. It's a real lot. And that was a wonderful experience. We had a great time. I don't think it's something I'd do again, just because I think it was a fun experiment. I think if I did do it again, I'd more stylise it as like a panel and have more people involved, because I felt quite vulnerable. I felt like I kind of took a lot of energy from me. I didn't like being at the front on the stool like that, and being like, "Hi everyone," It was an odd one.
It just felt a bit odd. I've never really been. We talked about this in the podcast before. I've never really been the kind of I'm on stage, I want all eyes on me, performative kind of person. So, and that's how it felt a little bit.
Yeah,
but hey,
it worked. And then we had the poetry slam.
Your poetry slam, which was flipping fantastic again.
It's so good. So we had last year's champ, Goodnight the Sky, return as our sacrificial poet. So if anyone who hasn't done a poetry slam, you have a sacrificial poet who kind of like gives the judges a taste of like what good poetry is to kind of help them judge more effectively when poets are performing. And then we had 4 slammers who each got 2 times to perform one up to 3 minute long poem. We had randomly selected judges that we don't judge. We give it out to our community, and they are able to give each poem 5 points, up to 5 points for fluency and performance, and up to 5 points for content and storytelling. And we had 4 amazing slammers. We had 2 from our community. We had Jamie and Anne-Marie, who've been with us for like almost a year now, I'd say. Yeah, well, I don't think that long actually. I think they only joined around January, so only about 6-7 months. Mad.
No, 10 months. It's
10
October.
months. When you said that, I was like, that feels too short. And then we had the fantastic Abbi and Hannah, who I know from university, who is just an absolute powerhouse and did these incredible poems, and it was just so good to see her. And she's someone I've been really watching her like career flourish, and I just love to see it. And then we had we had to have someone withdraw, which we totally understood. And at latest we had the wonderful Sylvia Marie join us from New York, and she just brought this like beautiful like narrative storytelling element that was just so powerful. And it was so close. Like so it goes, we do a draw to check the order, so everyone chooses a number between 1 and 4, write the order down, and then Good Night the Sky did their first poem, and then our poets performed in order 1, 2, 3, 4. Good Night the Sky then did a second poem, and then they performed in reverse order, so 4, 3, 2, 1. And then Good Night the Sky did another poem because they were great, and I just needed a bit of time to do some maths, and so I screwed off into the other room, was like adding up totals and making sure, and I had a friend there, so I got her to double check my maths because it was so tight, like unbelievably tight and understandably tight. And then we got to announce the wonderful Jamie as our 2024 champion, which was thoroughly well deserved. Any of them could have won, to be honest. It was such a good night. And he was delighted. He performed an extra poem. It was about his son, wasn't it? And it was not a dry eye in the house. And it was just magic. It's my favourite thing. It's beautiful. We have a list that we find, and we kind of ask if people ask they can join in, but we try and sort of curate it to show off sort of local talent that is deserving and hopefully instills confidence in our community that they can go and perform. Last year we had Lateral G, who's part of our community, and she's gone to enter loads of slams. Jamie Anne Marie this year. Like, we always try and pick people to like really to show how like tangible the ability to do this is. Yeah,
well, and also just to show them off a bit. I think that's the thing.
Yeah.
We have our Inkspill events every month, and it is quite community based, isn't it? We do kind of have the same faces each month. Every now and then we get new people, which is brilliant. Like
everyone's welcome.
Yeah, of course they are. But I think sometimes we forget just how amazing these people are because we see them each month, and it's nice sometimes to almost put them in that situation, to put a spotlight on them and say, you're actually really bloody good. Like,
I mean,
I've come such a long way.
We don't read anymore, so it's really nice to have them as our representatives of Inkspill, and like, this is the quality that we have in the community, and we get to show you off.
Yeah, it was such a again, just such a joyful event. Just, you know, you just think to yourself, the room was packed. It was really high energy.
Yeah.
I mean, as well, what I love about Inkspill, just in general, everyone just gives the biggest cheers and claps after any poem, and it really makes you feel good. And you know, I just thought to myself, this is what it's all about. You know, just a room full of people bonding over poetry in 2024,
and being so secure and safe and nerdy and honest. It's just it's really beautiful. I like I said, I'm not gonna lie, I've always started planning next year's because like my mind can't stop, and I love that and hate that. And then the last bit of the night was the open mic, the classic Inkspill open mic. I think is what I call it in the copy, and it's what I stand by. It's just again, we don't read. We want the space to be for people to come and do stuff. And actually, I think we did read this year. I think we read poems from the zine, because we should touch on that in a second.
I didn't read. I don't think I did.
Did I read?
I think I think you did.
I read. Hannah didn't.
Well, I could have done, but at the same time, as we'll chat in this episode, I'm not bothered really.
That's fine. It wasn't caught against you. I just want to check. But yeah, we had a full. I think we had about 40 people on the open mic.
It was The open mics are growing, aren't they? I mean, in the past, I thought the thirst was always for the creative workshops, but in actual fact, people come because they want to share, which is great.
I think it's both. I think people we've had Inkspills in the past where people who have never read before just recently written on the night, and it's so empowering to be like, oh my goodness, you wouldn't have read if you hadn't had that workshop time. So it's quite symbiotic. Yeah
It is.
So should we just quickly touch on your zine as well, because I want to give that a bit of airtime. You compiled a zine for us.
I did, yeah. Well, last year we put the zine together based on all the lost work of Inkspill, which I absolutely loved, because we found that people were coming and taking part in the workshops, and then they'd just screw them up and leave them on the table. And I'd be tidying up at the end of the day with a bin bag. And I'm like, I can't bin this. This is beautiful. This is like really good stuff. And I don't know if it was because of the venue that we were at in our first year, but people definitely left a lot more. There wasn't as much of that this year.
I think people are also quite proud of the work they've created. I think there's a shift of keeping it, which is amazing.
A lot more people now are bringing notebooks and things like that. So basically, I couldn't do the same thing this year. We didn't have any lost work, work that had been left behind, enough to kind of make it into a zine anyway. So, but it was fine because this year we got an insane amount of submissions.
Yeah.
I remember last year actually having to message people to beg them to send me work. This year we were inundated. I remember just logging into our emails and being like, oh my God, where do I begin with this? People were sending me tons of poetry. And just, it took me ages to kind of troll through all the poems, but my God, the quality was just insane. It was like I'm not saying the first year wasn't, but this was like a really high quality like anthology of work and everyone is just within a 5-mile radius, I'd say. So what a literary hotspot we're in here.
Yeah. It's amazing and it's beautiful. We have art done by our same cover artist last year, but she did. So last year it's our friend Alice. She goes under Pickled Pennies on social media, and you really liked her Castle Hill print, which is one of her first.
Yeah, we used to have we still do. We used to have our ink spill meetings at a place called Arcade in Huddersfield, and I remember it was on the wall behind you, and I kept staring at it like, that could be a great front cover. And then you were like, what a small world. That's actually one of my really close friends.
Yeah. And this year she did an amazing print that she did specifically for, and I think it's called Spilled Ink or something. So we'll share that on our socials. We do recommend you buy, because I have one. I've got both. I want to get both covers and then have them like side by side. That'd be really fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was such a good festival. Like it was such a slog to get there. It just feels like the mentality of this year has just been slogging through it. But I finish it and I'm just like, oh my God, I want to do it again. Like, I really am not joking. I was like, the next day I was like, I know exactly who I want for next year. Like, we'll do it again in a heartbeat. Just forget how hard it is in the lead up.
The lead up to it. But it's like that with any big event, isn't it?
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it was a really lovely day, fantastic turnout. And in actual fact, it couldn't have gone any better, I don't think.
Couldn't have gone any better.
It was great.
Even the weather was nice for September.
We had great cake.
Cracking cake. I actually got cake this year. No one threw my cake away.
I know, yeah, so true.
Delightful.
Yeah. So very few hiccups. I think the only hiccup we had was at the beginning of the day. Oh my goodness, merch table was laid out beautifully. Zines all over. It made it look gorgeous.
You had a tablecloth.
I got a really nice tablecloth. Signage, posters, flyers, everything on this merch table. And then I don't know what I was thinking, but I was chatting to you, and then I was putting I'd literally just bought a pint of lemonade and I just missed the table. I don't know where
it didn't even look like that. It looked like you dropped it almost, like the table was too high or something. Like
something happened and the table wasn't where I thought it was, and basically an entire pint of lemonade got poured over all the merch and the tablecloth. And then
the thing is, like, you were however many months pregnant, you're like on the floor and I'm like, can I get off the floor? I can sort it. Like, even like, please. And you're like, no, it's fine. I'm just there like, you are heavily pregnant, my friend. Like, please get off the floor.
But that was the main drama, and at least we got that out of the way nice and early.
Yeah, and then there's this like funny. The beer tablecloths, which made me laugh, that had like shields on.
It was very like apt for our context though, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, we are in a pub and proud, and
yeah, we should definitely do a shout out to Head of Steam and Huddersfield. We don't talk about them enough. They are the best. The team are amazing. We've done it before where we've forgotten to send them the dates and they will clear a room for us and make effort for us, and they are just so kind. So big shout out to Head of Steam. If you want a good pint and a pie in Huddersfield, really, and it's right on the station, we can't recommend it enough.
Yeah.
So there we go. Good reflection on the festival.
Yeah.
Shall we sort of reflect on our creative projects a bit and have a bit of a think about them?
There's a reason why we chose to dedicate an entire season to this, and I think it's because reflecting is such an important part of any process.
I think it's neglected. I think it really goes, like, for me as a writer, I write like we did in winter, and then I share like we did in summer, and I do not do spring, I do not edit, and I definitely don't reflect. I just carry on. But
I think we can't help but reflect. This podcast has kind of made it so that we've got to reflect this year, because we made our goals and aims very clear in season 1, episode 1. And
it's so naive.
Now it's like, that was almost us putting a pin in the corkboard and kind of, right, we need to be held accountable. So usually you wouldn't do that. You maybe make a mental thing of, I'd like to do this year, but you don't hold yourself accountable to it.
Yeah.
We got it in recording. We've
publicly shamed ourselves.
We definitely have. So we put it out in the universe, and now we have to own up at the end of the year and say we didn't do it.
I think something that I want to like acknowledge is actually how much I want to put this process into practice in my writing. And like maybe this is something I'll touch on more at the end of this, the episode 5, but something sort of like allude to is that like I think I need this structure. I think I like go. I feel like I'm so I have so little time to write that I just have to squeeze in as much as possible.
Yeah.
I think there's a real argument for actually like structuring time for writing and actually structuring how I write in that time as well and how I treat the writing. But I think from the guests this season, I'm going to learn a lot of like what to actually do to reflect and like enact and like how to look at my work through that lens. It's going to be really interesting. So any what's your insight? What's your like overwhelming feeling?
I think I've always been the kind of person who never allows myself to beat myself up over
That's
things
great.
I can't control.
Congratulations.
Well, at the beginning of the year, we talked a lot about Goodreads lists, didn't we? And that set yourself a goal for the year ahead. And I said to you, I've never really felt comfortable with that because I know that I'm doing the best I can in any situation. There's never a wasted moment in my life. I'm always filling it with something. So I don't like holding myself accountable to it. So in actual fact, setting out this year saying, I'm going to write a novel, it didn't sit comfortably with me anyway, because in January I was like, I've got a very clear year ahead. Nothing's happening.
So we both did. We both thought this is going to be the year for us.
Yeah, I thought I'd just be able to solely focus on the podcast and my novel. My job was settling down a little bit. Things just seemed like it was possible. But it didn't sit right with me because I did definitely think to myself, that's quite a bold claim. And it was. I haven't finished it. But what I have done is buy my first house, not have a baby, he's been brewing, but then completely renovate a house. I've really worked on my career. I got don't want to brag, but I got the best results in the department for my year 11s.
You did?
Because I put so much work into them, and so I don't actually care that I've not finished my novel because it's a work in progress, and I have had the best time just chatting to people on this podcast and learning from them, that every time I've spoken to someone I've gone back to the novel and edited it or tweaked it in some way.
Yeah.
Based on that conversation. So I don't care because I'm still at a point where I'm learning anyway, learning my craft and it's a bit. I
don't think we ever stop learning.
No, so I feel very positive about it because I've not written as much as I'd like, but I know that what I've got written now at this point, I'm really proud of and I'm really happy with. So, yeah. What about you?
I think it's something I've talked about a lot. Is just that I don't feel I make time for writing. I don't think it's something I have focused on in the way I sort of wanted to do. What do I want to say about this? It's a funny one. I'm having a repeated conversation with my partner at the minute, which is I have these amazing, and I'm not like bigging myself up, they are great ideas. I just never finished them. And I think I've really struggled this year with like, I really passionately wanted to finish something. I really, really wanted, and it didn't have to be good, and it didn't have to be amazing, like it didn't have to go anywhere necessarily, but I wanted to finish. It got really attached to, I had to finish the creative project that we set at the start of this podcast.
Yeah.
And coming away from that has been really hard because, much like you acknowledged, we've had a lot of change this year. We've had, lots of big and different things between the two of us. And I think the thing that I've had to like re-navigate is that like I'm not going to finish that great project, but I'm going to finish this great project. Yeah. We are going to finish this podcast.
We are.
And it's going to be amazing. And we have such great feedback repeatedly from our community, and that's all that matters, is the fact that people come and say, we love listening to you. And I'm just like, oh, I don't know. And it's immediately like self-deprecating, like I don't know why, but thank you.
Yeah.
And yes, I'm not going to. I'm probably realistically, I'm saying probably because I can't quite commit to like being like I will not finish the great project, but I won't. But I will finish this, and also I finished the second draft of my book back in April, I think, and I've left it alone. I've really been leaving it like alone because it's 107,000 words, and I'm just not sure how much of it is actually good.
Okay.
I think the story's there, but I think there's a lot of unnecessary scenes, and like I'm sure you know from Right Club that the people we work with in that group are very good at being like, well, you said this and you wouldn't say that and you would take this out, and it's brilliant because I'm like, yeah, tell me, I will do it.
Yeah.
My favourite one is that I am driving Vivian insane by doing too much showing, too much telling and not enough showing.
Oh, right, okay. Yeah.
And it's so good because she's like, well, why are you telling me this? Show me this. Why are you telling me this? Show this. I'm like, every line, I'm like, you're right.
Yeah.
Like, I don't get tired of hearing it because I need it affirmed that that's the case. So, yeah, so I probably won't finish this creative task, this collection I really wanted to do because I wanted to do more page poetry. But I did finish my novel. We are going to finish the podcast.
Yeah.
And we're going to finish it well. You know, there's so many times where we've lost momentum with this and thought, this is, we were talking about it the other week at Inksville in the summer, where we're like, it just is it takes so much time and so much energy, and like, because people keep saying, oh, you know, you're talking about the last season, the end of the podcast, what are you doing next? And we're like, probably not a podcast.
Yeah.
That's realistic. Like, I loved it, and I've loved interviewing people on. I've loved chatting with you. I've loved having this quality time together.
Yeah.
But I don't think we have the mental capacity to do this again.
It's been a far greater commitment than I thought. Just because of how much time it takes to. Well, that goes on behind the scenes, like you don't even realise. I mean, the actual organisation of the podcast, making sure if you're getting guests that you can all be free at the same time on the same days, and then actually recording it takes a good 2 or 3 hours, doesn't it? Editing it, thank the Lord for your partner, because if it wasn't,
it wouldn't have happened. It wouldn't look half as good. Yeah. It wouldn't look anywhere near as good.
No, exactly. I mean, Alex has just put hours and hours into editing this.
He knows this podcast better than we do. He watches this podcast more. Like, we'll watch it for edits and give a few amends and stuff, but he has watched the raw, insane, unedited footage where I'm so excited for blooper. He's got like such a massive blooper reel to go out of this. I kept saying, well, I'll do it seasonally, and I realised that there just was so much. I was like, this can be done at the end of the whole thing, when we're like fine with being like laughed at, when we've like clapped out a sync, or we immediately start talking off subject about something random, or so sorry, to come back to like the point is that it's okay. I'm coming to terms with it. I envy your ability to not beat yourself up, basically.
Well, because I've looked back at the year and I'm like, when did I have a minute? I've not had a damn minute. So how could I have written a novel?
No, it's true. I am so bad for filling my time and then feeling like I'm failing.
I do feel as though I know exactly what you mean in terms of making time, though. So I do reflect and think, actually, there probably were opportunities where I could have been a bit selfish and said, no, I'm going to take this hour back and I'm going to sit in a room and focus on writing. Yeah. Maybe I do need to be a little bit more selfish next year with my time, because I do give a lot of it to other people. Yeah. And in actual fact, sometimes you've got to think, well, is that actually benefiting me at all? And maybe sometimes it didn't. Maybe, sometimes I could have been a bit more selfish with my time. But
I think that's probably like certainly a people thing, but also like a woman thing of just being like really quick to give your space and your abilities away.
Everyone else.
It's interesting. I'm really looking forward to this season on like growing as I reflect, rather than reflecting to develop, like, and it sounds like I'm using synonyms, but I really want to like make something of this time. I think it's like I needed editing, even though I hate doing it. That season was so good for me, and the people we talked to and the guests and the time we discussed, what we discussed really I feel like I grew from. I feel like I need this from this season to like be better for next time.
It's going to be quite cathartic, I think, and I think it's going to be a really good opportunity to speak to people and reflect with them on their kind of careers and their journeys, because the guests that we've got booked in, we will come to them in a second. Yes. But they've got quite long established careers, haven't they? Yeah. So I think it'd be really interesting for us at the early stages of our career to kind of think, actually, we're doing a heck of a lot more than I think we are.
100%.
It's one of those, isn't it? We're just always like, we're not where we want to be, but it's like, but look at what we've achieved already, so far. So 100%. I think it's going to help put things into perspective for us, actually, when we hear about other people's journeys and other people's careers. Yeah. Actually, I think we're doing bloody okay.
I think we're doing okay. And I think we have this affirmed a lot, and then I panic because I get into my head.
And then it's always great because we have another season around the corner just to perk you back up again to think.
I know. I'll have to listen to us next year instead of like doing it. That'd be a lot more peaceful. But should we touch on our guests then?
The guests for this
final season of guests.
I know.
Amazing. So episode number 2, the next episode, we're going to be joined by Matt Abbott, who is a bit of a local legend.
He is.
He's a fantastic poet and writer and activist. He works with a lot with communities, predominantly around Leeds, but I believe he's from Wakefield.
Yeah.
He was your sort of like, you contacted Matt this time.
Well, I reached out to Matt after watching him he came to our school and he did a talk with our students because we were entering them into Poetry by Heart, which is a competition, and I don't think I fully like or agree with, but anyway, if you've heard of Poetry by Heart, you'll have your own opinions on it. But anyway, so he was coming into the school to kind of encourage students to perform poetry, to learn poetry, and he was almost trying to kind of show poetry's for everyone. And I thought to myself, you're never going to get them on board. You're not going to motivate these kids to like poetry. But then he did, and I was like, damn. So then,
what wizardry is this?
So I'm kind of really intrigued to just figure out where he's come from, his background, and how he's kind of got involved with the community, because that's what we do. We do a lot of community work, a lot of like outreach work. So I'm really intrigued to see how he's managed to make a full career out of poetry. So he's going to be a fantastic guest. So
he is, and I've read his book and I've seen him perform. It's really funny, you having like the school experience and me having the like evening event adult experience. And just finding him equally as captivating. Which just shows that when the quality of your work is good, and I think also the genuine passion of your work is good, you can really transform.
It was weird though. I was seeing him everywhere. So like I saw him at school and I was like, Matt Abbott, interesting, going to keep him in my mind for the podcast. And I was going to speak to you about him. And then I went to Sunnybank Mills and I was walking up and down, and at Sunnybank Mills it's like it was an old mill building, but now they've kind of made it into little shops and arty spaces. And like on the actual walls outside there are huge panels of old mill workers and what it was like back in the day. And then they've commissioned a poet to write poetry inspired by the pictures. And as I was reading these stanzas, I was like, God, this is amazing, this is so well captured. And then they were all written by Matt Abbott, and I was like, that's that name again, Matt Abbott. And I was like, I need to speak to this guy. We need to get him on the podcast. So
it's funny how it catches up on you sometimes, isn't it? When you're like, that's a name. Okay, that's a name we need to have.
Definitely got vibes of him being just a local legend. So
amazing. And then episode 3, we're going to speak to Helen Monks, who is a actor, writer, and co-director of Lung Theatre Company over in Barnsley. I met Helen last year at the Edinburgh Fringe with my partner, because they're both from Birmingham, so they have big ties to the Birmingham theatrical scene, which is really cool. And we saw her Lung's production of Woodhill, which is about the prison system, predominantly looking at suicide in the prison system. And it was the first time I encountered verbatim theatre, which I'm sure she'll fill us in much more clearly, but from what I know is kind of like
theatre inspired by kind of real life.
Using testimonies. Absolutely. And she's just fantastic. She's such a powerhouse. She's so interesting. She was so lovely immediately to me, because at the end of the day, like, Edinburgh Fringe is unbelievably knackering, and the fact that she immediately had the time and energy to be nice to me, I thought was really, really kind. And it was just really fun. It wasn't fun. It was harrowing. It was a like horrendous experience, but it was really, really powerful.
I've never met Helen, but looking at her bio, it's mind blowing. So I can't wait to hear more about how she's got to that point in her career.
Yeah, she's amazing, and I'm sure I was very excited for you two to meet. So it's gonna be good to see. And then episode 4, our final guest, we are going international.
Going overseas.
We're going stateside.
Oh yeah.
With the lovely Jeremy Malloul, who is currently my mentor for video game writing. He's a game writer based over in LA. So that was very fun trying to get those time recordings booked in, because I was like, what time is this for you? Like Googling. And he has worked in, I believe, board games as well, and is currently working on a screenplay, so he's very well placed in LA, and he's just a lovely, lovely person.
Yeah, it's an area we've not tapped into, and it's an area that I think would interest a lot of people.
Yeah, it's really applicable, and it's also like lots of areas because of how his career's progressed, and he's just been such a kind person to me, because it's something I'm really interested in, but it's not something you're really taught. And I think because I'm in a funny position, because I'm writing poetry and a novel and I want to do video games, I just want to write basically. He's really good at sort of showing me the structures of what I need to be doing, and it's also like someone working as a writer in a very different, you know, more sort of commission style way rather than like anything sort of creative and original in that sense.
Yeah, because that is the unfortunate reality for quite a lot of writers. Sometimes they have to rely on that kind of work where it is commission based, and maybe you don't get full autonomy. But yeah, so it'd be interesting to kind of get his perspective on that. Yeah,
he's wonderful. I'm sure it's gonna be really interesting having someone from the States as well. It's gonna be just having that little bit of difference for us. So yeah, it's an absolutely stacked program. Again, if we say so ourselves, it's going to be wonderful.
Going to be good, and I'm glad as well that we're using this final season to speak to a real kind of diverse range of people from different disciplines. So it's all kind of under the writing umbrella, but we've got poetry, theatre, novel writing, and gaming this time, which I just think, wow, I mean, brilliant. I'm really glad that it's evolved to this point.
Yeah, I know, and it's a real shame, because like we do talk about how exhausting, how we're not going to continue this podcast, but the list is endless. We have so many people we'd love to talk to, and we're at capacity, and maybe there's room for something in the future, but not anytime soon. That's like in the caveat in brackets. But yeah, it's so wonderful talking to people, and we find it so invigorating, don't we?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, really exciting stuff.
Yeah, it's going to be a good season ahead. I think it's going to be a really nice season to end on as well.
Really feels full circle.
It does.
Things. So before we sign off, shall we quickly touch on creative tasky kind of things? I think for this opening episode we should keep it the same, and maybe it's just re-looking at our creative projects and just reassessing where we are, maybe rereading it, or looking at the plan and sort of making adjustments and figuring out how we can sort of continue it sustainably, or if we can continue it sustainably.
Maybe reflecting on the year of podcasts that have been, you know, which season was your favourite, which season do you feel you got the most out of, because again, that's quite beneficial for us to know, and also maybe for you to know, maybe if you thought, do you know what, I didn't know enough about editing, or I could have done more in the initial idea generation area, maybe go back and have a little listen and see if there's anything that could get those cogs turning again if you've hit a bit of a wall.
Definitely. I think it's going to be good for us to kind of take a look back at them and figure out what we're doing again and what we can do. And it's going to be funny. I don't think I've really looked, because the festival took so much time for us both in the zine for you. I don't think I've really looked at it recently, so it'd be nice to get back to it.
It would, yeah. So lovely. Strap in for the final season of Spilling Ink then.
It's going to be amazing.
Yeah, it's going to be a really nice way to end it. And what better time of year? I'm just looking out the window. It's looking lovely and golden and
surprisingly warm at the minute. So
nice.
Long may that continue. But looking forward to it. We'll see you guys next week with the wonderful Matt Abbott.
We will. See you then.
Bye.
Bye.